as we kind of go through this presentation, we'll talk a lot about the impact of monitoring and why that matters. So moving on, primarily we're a colo facility. We've got dedicated servers. We've got cloud services, security services, backup and disaster recovery services, and managed services. Now, I'm going to focus on two of these today, and those two are going to be the security services and the cloud services. So, we talked about the robust network, enterprise-grade infrastructure. We provide 100% guarantee of uptime. We've got established experience in the space. As you guys know, as customers, that's why you're with us. And now we're adding a security focus to everything we do. So, again, why us with security services? Well, data center infrastructure is in our DNA. Security is a natural progression of infrastructure services. This is what we do. This is what we have done for years. So us adding security just makes sense. And we're not trying to add something as a byproduct. We're just adding this as a natural extension of our product line and and the services within our product line. So let's kind of take a step back and look, like, is this security thing, like, why are we talking about security, right? As you guys know, it's like 77% of organizations do not have a formal cybersecurity incident response plan. A lot of organizations may have some level of monitoring or some level of visibility, but when it comes to response plans, it's one of those things, it's not if you'll get breached, it's when. So if you take the posture that it's a when, you take a different stance of it. You plan for it. You do things like bench testing. You have plan checklists, those kind of things. So basically, it's about being ready and anticipating a breach, and having all the tools to tell when it's going to happen, if it's happening, and to stop it while it's happening, and basically limit the exposure of that. Time to resolve. It's a scary number within the industry. It takes 100 days for us to detect and mitigate somebody floating around our network, right? I don't know. That like 100 days means they've got all the data they need already out of the system before people catch them. So that's something that we looked at and said not acceptable. Predictions for 2019. I think this $6 trillion in cybercrime is a scary number. One of the other scary numbers is that each breach can cost an organization, and this will come up later, but about $3.6 million to $4 million for a single incident. That could pretty much put a company out of business, right? And finally, there's a skill shortage, about 3.5 million resources within the industry itself, and I'll talk about that as we get to another slide. So, what do we look like? We talked about we've got cloud services, we've got infrastructure services, we've got availability services, we've got the hardware services. Now we're talking about adding security to the mix. And in the cloud side, in particular, we're talking about adding the data security cloud. And what that is an optimized cloud environment that is supportive of regulatory compliance. So, and this is one of those, typically if you had a regulatory workload, you're putting it into a colo facility. And now we've basically created this environment where you can actually take a regulatory sensitive workload and take the benefits of a shared cloud environment. And we're talking about security services. Now, security services in this case is manage, detect, and triage. We have a goal to go to a manage, detect, and respond organization, and we'll talk about that in another slide as well. But what that looks like is the vulnerability assessment, threat management, which we focus a lot on, and asset management. And then we've done some work that we'll talk about with dark web early warning systems and being the actual global watch center and what that means to us and to you as a customer and how you benefit from that, right? And the work we've done inside of that. Availability. There's no such thing as 100% security, so we plan for it, and we definitely encourage our customers that we have managed security for to have a good backup and recovery strategy that we know actually works and can be replicated and recovered in a reasonable time frame. And we've certainly got awards to kind of support our backup and recovery solutions. Can't do everything ourselves. We rely a lot on leverage and rely on partners. In this case, for the security solution side, we've worked with these partners. Logarithm is our SIM tool. Swimlanes is our orchestration tool. And one of the things we looked at is, especially when it comes to customer environments, we did not want our engineers and our folks to know what those passwords were. So we use a password vaulting technology, Thycotic, that actually handles the password management for us. So again, none of our employees could compromise a customer's environment by kind of giving away their admin password, right? Sophos is our endpoint technology of choice. We did some extensive vetting and picked that for the reasons of integration and kind of single pane of glass. Going on, we've all seen some version of this slide, right? It's not what it seems at the surface. Like a breach, it just doesn't affect, oh, we lost our password, or we lost some money out of the bank account, right? There's a lot of cost underneath the covers. If you get breached, especially in Arizona right now, there's a breach law that got passed where you have to, if you got breached, you have to disclose. You cannot not disclose it. And what the disclosure looks like is you have to mail out a letter to everybody that got breached at 50 cents a pop. That could be significant. You've got to work with a lawyer. You've got to mail out a second letter, and then you've got to offer them the credit monitoring service. All of that adds up, right? So, is the breach real? Yes. This is an old slide, but I use it because if somebody like this, Apple's supply chain, got breached, how is anybody else not going to, right? And the scary thing about this is this number right here, $8 trillion of damage that this breach has caused. That's a huge economic impact. So let's look at kind of relevant to us, the small and medium business market, right? The big number here that bothers me is 7,700 malware attacks, 430% increase in file encryption attacks, and 554 zero days in 2017. And then this is another number that comes up. In the 2018 report, 53,000 incidents happened in that year, with 2,200 confirmed data breaches. Now that plays into one of the other slides we talk about when we talk about threat enrichment. There is no way any SOC anywhere can process 53,000 incidents and kind of stay sane, I guess. So what you have to do really is really identify the critical threats or the most imminent and credible threats and work those. And we'll talk about how we've done that for the benefit of both this organization as well as the greater actor organization. No good security conversation is complete without a kill chain conversation. But basically what this says is an attacker has to go through all of these steps to be successful. As a defender, we've got to stop them in just one place. And basically, we've effectively killed the attack, right? Things like detect that email that sent you the bad file and stop it. Don't ever send it to the user. Stop clicking. Stop the link when it's clicked. Even if the link's clicked, stop the actual file from executing. These are all things that we can do to prevent that attack from completing. So I talked about the skill shortage. Well, this is Maricopa stats. There's 7,700 unfilled jobs here in Maricopa alone. Now, what's significant about that is even if you could, as an organization, you had the budget and you stood up your own security organization, how are you going to find the staff to staff that organization 24/7? It is a challenge, and this is where really coming and working with an organization like us helps, because this is our core job. This is what we do. So we're obviously going to have people trained and better access to these resources than you would trying to find the same people, right? And even our challenge is finding those people in a reasonable time frame. So that being said, what are we talking about here? We're talking about taking logs, we're talking about controlling the firewalls, and we're talking about supporting compliance through things like reporting and kind of giving you everything you need to maintain the compliance needs that you have as an organization. All of that goes into a threat management solution, which then kind of helps with the operational security and helps with kind of basically your business operations, so that you can focus on your core business and not have to worry about elements of security that you can outsource, right? So, solution overview, I talk a lot about threat detection services, endpoint protection, the incident triage. I might as well just jump into it. So what's threat detection? We take logs from various sources and we correlate it for network behavior of like known patterns. So we're looking for known behavior patterns and flagging it. And there's slides that kind of cover that as well. Advanced basically malware protection, and looking at stopping it before it even hits, and if it does hit, kind of doing some analysis and trying to find root cause, right? Incident triage. One of the things a lot of providers out there do is we'll detect a threat, and they will send you a ticket basically with that threat. We believe that in a lot of cases you really can't action that, and what we do is we triage that, we look at it, we validate it, and provide you with a credible, what we call a credible threat, is we've triaged to the point that we realize this is real and relevant to you, and only then do we send it to you. So we cut down a lot of the noise, and of course we've got a 24/7 security operations center. We talked about backup as a service, and we will talk about data security cloud. So, we've branded all of this under the Secure by Design brand, and why we've done that is, as you see, we go through the presentation, we've taken our existing product set and we've added this layer of security on top of it. So we're enhancing our product sets with the security services model and making them stronger and more secure. So what does that mean? Security as a culture, incorporating security in everything we do, constantly improving our policies and procedures, and holding ourselves to account. As a mission, our goal really is to take these enterprise-grade solutions and bring it down to the small and business marketplace in an OpEx cost structure. So basically make it accessible to the small and medium business that could not afford this any other way. You'll hear us talk a lot about this building block approach, right? We look at layers, and the communication infrastructure we've talked about, the global infrastructure, that we've got that, we've got like DDoS mitigation built into the environment. We've got multiple vendor circuits that everyone rides on. These are all things you guys as customers know, right? We've got our secure infrastructure solutions that we're talking about, which is Data Security Cloud, where, and by using things like CIS hardened operating systems and the policies and procedures, best practices, you can create a really secure operating system layer and down. And what's notably missing is applications, right? Applications is certainly a customer provided, the customer specializes in applications, right? And then on top of all of that, we're going to provide the security services that watches everything that's going on so we can maintain the security posture that we've created through all the layers below. We're fans of frameworks. Frameworks give us a structure and gives you, the customer, an expectation of how we're going to do things and basically what to expect and what to see, right? We've obviously structured on the NIST framework. Most importantly, I kind of focus on this recover thing. I harp on that because it is something unique that we do, again, mostly because we can, and we've got experience doing it. And it kind of goes back to that data center as a DNA thing, right? So holistic security approach. We believe all of these components make up a security solution. Now, we don't do them all. Like assessments and validation doesn't make sense for us to do it. It is somewhat of a conflict of interest. So we partner with local vendors that can do that on our behalf. Application security. Again, we don't know your applications real well, but we can certainly provide, and we've done contracts with hosted WAF providers and similar solutions that we can put in front of your web applications to protect you. Threat management, that's the core of our business. That's what we're talking about today. And that involves the 24/7 SOC, the security orchestration tools, the endpoint security, the incident management, the backup and recovery, and patch management. Now, one of the things we did in the last 2 years when we were building this is we invested heavily into incident orchestration. We brought that in as a feature day one and built around that. And what that means is we can do a lot of work through like scripting and intelligent computing technology that at the end of the day gives the ability for us to provide a richer set of data to the incident responder so that they've got a more intelligent response at what I call first contact. And again, we'll talk more about that too. Disaster management, obviously the DRAS, the redundancy solutions. This is basically based on your organization's recovery point objective, right? How soon do you need to be back up and running? And we can typically have a solution that will match that. So that being said, what's all this about? We've got a customer, we've got the layers, we've got the robust network, the data security cloud. The security services consists of taking customer logs, a 24/7 SOC, a threat management solution, taking threat data from external sources, and all the tooling that goes with that to make those correlations and support those decisions. That's, in a nutshell, what this scary solution looks like. Now, no threat management solution is complete without a threat intelligence program. And why I say that is, the stuff you're defending against is based on the intelligence that you're getting from outside, right? The faster you know what's going on, the faster you can protect your own network. So as part of that, we've worked with ACTRA, and I'll talk about ACTRA in the next slide. We've taken threat indicators. Basically, ACTRA is member organizations that share threat intelligence in real time with each other. So by getting that threat intelligence in real time, we can ingest it, we can enrich it. And when we talk about enrichment, we're talking about looking up the IP address, looking up the email address. Was the email address compromised? Was the IP a known bad machine? Is it under botnet control? Basically trying to get as much data as we can on the information that's coming at us and validating that this is a real threat that's relevant to our customer base. All that being said, if we detect all of that to be true, and we've created a scoring system that actually identifies kind of the priority of the threat vector, we can engage a volunteer team of incident responders that to actually create a mitigative strategy for that vector. That vector is then sent out to the membership at the same time as PhoenixNAP as a member. We get to put that into our system and start to protect you all, our customers. Now, I will actually talk about that in a second. What that is talking about the threat management solution. Again, it's about taking logs, taking these log sources, correlating it with these threat behaviors, and triggering an alert. So holistic. Basically, we use that term basically to look at, we're providing you a solution that's encompassing all the different aspects of this, so that you don't have to try to integrate other solutions in. We've done it for you and created the tools that you need to handle your security in one place, along with your infrastructure, right? Incident triage, we talked about the global scope and reach. Obviously, being global, we see a lot more data from a lot more places, so we've got better data sets to work with. Again, leading to protecting you and detecting it faster and protecting you faster. Our big focus when we built this was active threat defense. So not waiting to react once the threat has hit, trying to prevent it before it hits. So there are two terms. We have the term MSSP and MDR. We're not an MSSP. We are an infrastructure provider that has security services as a component of our infrastructure. However, from an MDR perspective, we are aspiring to add incident response components into our solution set as a future product. And this is the Gartner stats that we use to kind of base those decisions on. So, how it works. Threat data sources, customer logs, we get the correlation, we get an alert. That alert, then we decide, assume that Monday morning we've got a single user that it takes 3 times to log in. So you get the password alert every single Monday morning for those 3 logins. Well, you don't want to keep seeing that. So we work with you to tune that. That's one example, right? We work with you to tune those types of alerts out. So again, what we're going for is take out the noise and only respond to the stuff that really matters. Now, if you do find something that really matters, that goes into a response cycle. And that's basically the entire oversimplified version of the threat management solution that we've built. So going a little more into detail, this is your environment. You've got servers, you've got devices, you've got other components in there. When we contract to manage your security, what we'll do is we'll drop either a virtual machine or give you the tools to install it on your own machines, a data collector on that. So all your local machines will talk to that data collector. That data collector will send that compress and send that information to us over the internet. On purpose, what you'll notice is we do not have a VPN connection between your environment and ours. And that was an active decision we made to basically create a more secure solution for both of us. So we use the transport, it is encrypted, and that will get those logs to us, along with if you were using Sophos as your antivirus, anti-malware solution, we've integrated in with their cloud solution so that we get those logs as well. All of those logs get processed and correlated. If something was escalated, we create an orchestration component to that, and then we run it through this orchestration to alert the right people and get the attention it needs. And obviously that system is integrated in with all these other systems, the back end. The goal here was have everything show up on a single pane of glass, so we've got a more intelligent system that our people are looking at, so that, again, we can respond faster because we got more information at our fingertips. The ACTRA Global Watch Center. So ACTRA is an organization consisting of Arizona companies that basically have created a relationship to share this threat intelligence with no attribution for the good of the whole, the good of the community. As the Watch Center, we see those threats come in real time, and it's our role to triage and support the ACTRA membership in getting those vectors to resolution. Actually, I want to go back one slide. No, it's me. So what do? We talked about the ingestion phase. We get multiple sources. We talk about the enrichment phase. We take dark web threat data. We actively detonate the virus in the cloud if that's what comes through to us. We take the known bad databases, things like bad IP addresses, or there's databases of bad command and control servers, that type of stuff. And there's databases of good things, like companies that own the IP range. We take all of that information to create an enriched package. We then calculate a score. Now, this is something that didn't exist, so we went ahead and came up with some stuff, and now we're working with industry professionals to refine and use some certified methods to actually enhance that scoring so that we can escalate that and focus on the critical stuff that matters. Yeah. So, that kind of a little bit of the dark web threat data that we're using. The network intelligence, IP domain infected hosts. Database has a lot of stuff about machines that are infected and who their command and control servers are. So we use that to our advantage when we look that up, because if you see the source IP is one of those things, we can go ahead and block it knowing that we're doing the right thing. What's interesting here is also the credentials. One of the cases that came up for us was a customer who had federated access into their system was using the credential vulnerabilities from their customer's customer to identify potential threats, right? If you had federated access and you knew somebody was compromised from your customer base, if you proactively block that, you can actually create a better security posture for you and your customer. So that's just one scenario of the various things you can do with this dark web threat data to, again, go into that proactive mode versus the reactive mode, right? That's, I think, all I'm going to cover on this. So what are these data sources? Firewalls, IDS sensors, Active Directory, user behavior analytics, file storage devices. All of these things typically either syslog, typically syslog, and come into the logarithm system and get correlated against these threat vectors. So that's kind of the technical side of it. I jumped. I don't see any questions, so I'm assuming everyone's good with that. Now, cloud adoption, right? Cloud, like when VMware first came out, we saw this, and now we're seeing this with cloud as well. There's concerns about the multi-tenancy. There's concerns about the lack of encryption. Kind of the fears of outages, gaps and then gaps in compliance. Right? Gaps in compliance has been one of the biggest things that we identified. Hence why we went down this path. Skills and training. Cloud still requires some level of higher skill set and training than average IT folks, right? But what the opportunity there is, you've got a lot better infrastructure, and you've got a lot more investment in these servers. What you get in the cloud environment we've built is production-grade Intel Gold microprocessors, that not typical machines that you would buy in a business environment. Yeah. So when you think cloud, you can definitely build it yourself. It takes a lot of time. We see a heavy competition to get the machines we want, and it's certainly an environment that you need a team to maintain, both in the technology side as well as the compliance side, right? Second option is to partner. You get immediate ROI. You certainly take advantage of the expertise that that partner has already built, and obviously they've gone through and had these people go through the training and stuff like that, and you get the advantage of security, especially with like a provider like us, where we've got the data center and everything that goes with that to support that. So there are answers to the problems. Like the trusted network security controls in NSX, the virtualized everything appliances. Basically, in the virtual world, there is a lot you can now do that you you would have to have a physical computer to do in the past. There you go. So NSX, things like microsegmentation, things like the Intel Cloud Integrity Toolkit that can actually do things, in my opinion, that you can't actually do in the physical environment, or certainly can do with a lot of complex wiring and a lot of complex gear, where all of this is nice and clean and virtual. So, secure by design, right? Secure at the foundation. The root trust module, taking advantage of the TPM modules on the servers themselves, taking advantage of the latest Intel command sets around encryption at rest, encryption during transit, the firmware assurance, and basically building an entire security ecosystem from the ground up. So from the point of where we design the switching fabric all the way to the security monitoring. And we're creating a new level of trust with the new enterprise key systems and the KMS components that are built into VMware. So this is an animation that I put in kind of to explain the various different layers that went into building this data security cloud. One of the things as a cloud provider we've learned is to segment out the management infrastructure from the compute infrastructure. That alone is a significant difference because our management infrastructure will not affect our compute infrastructure or our workloads inside of that. The encrypted storage is separated out from the storage that the management infrastructure uses. There's a lot of things we've done that we've learned over the years and we've implemented when we designed the data security cloud. As I said, we literally from the switching fabric and up, it was designed to be this secure cloud infrastructure. And the PCI certification of that environment basically goes to attest to that. So, how do we protect you in this environment? We've got the internet. We've talked about a WAF that comes in front. We've got a consumer edge that sits inside of this environment, which is basically your firewall. You can have multiple networks in this environment segmented out with various different security classifications. And you've got ACLs across all of this to actually micro-segment not just the environments, but the machines themselves. By default, these logs go into a log insight installation, and that information actually comes to us at the security services layer into logarithm, and then we go through the whole process what we talked about for monitoring and maintaining that environment. So inside of your environment, we're going to spot any bad activity that's happening inside of this cloud, right? And we're certainly going to report on that and flag that. Now, I put this slide up because of one thing. So this was a slide that was really talking to the fact that virtualization, application like server management and networking have collapsed. We're no longer talking about 3 different resources that are doing these things, right? We've converged all of this into this kind of the superstructure. So where does someone fit? Really, this is where we're now in the industry trying to figure out who owns what, who owns this piece. But the beauty of it, of using a provider is you don't need to worry about it, right? Somebody's taking care of all these pieces. You're just riding on top of all of this and taking advantage of the fact that it's all handled. Sophos, we talked a little bit. One of the reasons we picked Sophos is the hybrid cloud readiness. Having the AWS cross connect here in Arizona and being able to connect to the AWS cloud at layer 2 allows us to basically create solutions between AWS and the PhoenixNAP cloud. It lets you create some very creative solutions, and it puts us in the unique position to manage security across those 2 different platforms. Why we liked it again? Web control, like all of these components are out of the box. And they're across, whether it's a PC, a Mac, a server, a Linux box, Android phone, or an iPhone or an iPad, right? All of these things it handles and brings into a central console in a multi-tenant environment that allows us, actually what we do is we've integrated it in already into Logarithm, so we basically just create the tickets inside of that. Eat down with dog food. So we talked about kind of the Global Watch Center and how we do things in there. We've implemented that in our own DSC. And I say eat down on dog food because we use our own environment for that. And we've created this multi-segmented network, and we've got all these interconnects. I'm not going to focus too much on the particulars of that. Finally, I included a bunch of screen captures to show you how easy it is to kind of manage this environment, right? So this is setting up that environment. You first set up some external IPs on the gateway. You then set up the different networks, and in this case, okay, I call it the bad network, the DMZ network, and the internal network. The bad network being where we detonate the malware and stuff like that. You set your IPs up the way you want it. You then set up your NAT. This is where you're setting up your NAT translations for what you want your inside to communicate to the outside with, or vice versa. And you set up your firewall rules. So we've got syslogs coming in, we've got the SSH inbound, we've got the mail access, like pretty standard stuff that you do on a real firewall, and you're done. So going back to this drawing, what's possible? Anything you can create in a physical environment, we can create in a virtual environment. I believe we can do more cheaper in the virtual environment than in a physical. And I really do believe that you got kind of better architectural controls inside of this environment. Being at PhoenixNAP, you know we've got DDoS mitigation built right into our network, so you don't need to worry about that. It's not an additional service. The reporting, basically some of the reports we produce actually support your regulatory needs, and you can use those as kind of evidence when it comes to time of attestation. And it's easily expandable, right? Adding resources is a matter of calling the salesperson and saying, hey, I want these additional resources, and that's provisioning it for you. And that could be horizontally or laterally, right? You can move and expand into other data centers that we have around the world and be able to take advantage of kind of the geolocation capabilities we have. What else do I want to cover with? I think that's really it. That's, I think, a lot that I jumped on. Anybody have any questions? So with this, I'll open it up to the floor for questions. Nobody? Am I not seeing the questions? Hey, Slavika?
We can. Hello, Anthony. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, so did you finish the webinar?
We did.
Perfect. I just wanted to check if we are still broadcasting. You were great, thank you. And we had actually 8 to 9 attendees, which is cool, comparing to 15 registered.
So do we have any questions that are pending from the audience that I'm not seeing, or are we just not having questions?
No. There was some guy, I'm an IT engineering student, what would you recommend as good certification to get for this type of work?
Okay, well, so I think, well, there's multiple things you can do here, right? And I'm a proponent of the CISSP being one, but I think with the CISA Plus, actually we have a couple of engineers here. Go for it, guys.
Start off with, I don't know, something super simple. Anyways, like a Security Plus, and probably go deeper into like the CISSP, and kind of depending on what exactly you want to do. there's so many routes you can go down. I mean, pen testing, or if you want to be a SIM engineer or firewall engineer, whatever. There's just so many different certifications out there that you can get, and it's really, really driven on what exactly you want to do.
Yeah, I think I always say there's like 3 unique tracks. There's like blue team, red team, and the assessor auditor. The red team being the offensive security, the CEH certification, that level of stuff where you're trying to break into something. The blue team where you're the protector. You're either going down the SOC analyst path or you're going down the security engineer path, and a lot of that's kind of going to go into where your passion is. Are you passionate in defending? Or are you passionate in trying to hunt for things? And finally, there are people that have to assess this stuff and have to go into a company and validate that they're doing the right things. That's not me.
So that's. Can you hear me, Anthony? Sorry.
I can, yeah.
Okay, so that's it. I think we are done. So I think that we can finish this.
Okay, thank you guys. It was hopefully this was helpful. Please reach out. We'd love to kind of talk to you and walk you through any parts that weren't clear, and we'd certainly love to give you kind of a tour and can talk about how the solution can definitely help you. So thank you. Appreciate all your time, and we'll talk to you soon. Broadcast.